Asterisk, she said it like it was always meant to be. Not a confession, not a claim, just the truth I'd been waiting my whole life to hear. Asterisk, it begins not with fireworks, but with a quiet return. The kind of return that feels accidental, even though some part of him knows he was always meant to come back. The town hasn't changed much. Same cracked sidewalks, same sleepy rhythm that hums under the surface. But when he sees the old white house at the end of Maple Street, something inside him slows. He remembers summer evenings on that porch, the scent of jasmine carried on warm wind, and the soft murmur of a woman's laughter drifting through the screen door. She's standing there again, years later, as if time itself has been waiting with her. A 42-year-old woman with long black hair, now threaded faintly with silver near her temples, wearing a loose cream blouse and faded blue jeans. The sunlight catches her features, lightly tanned skin, soft laugh lines, the graceful curve of someone who's lived fully and quietly. Her beauty isn't the loud kind. It's the kind that's grown into itself, calm and sure. She looks up and sees him before he can call out her name. For a moment, he almost feels 12 again. The boy who once helped her carry groceries, who sat on her steps eating cold lemonade pops while she read on the porch swing. But now, standing before her, the air feels different. It carries a weight he can't quite name. Her smile blooms slowly, hesitant but warm. "You've grown," she says, voice low, familiar. He laughs, awkwardly brushing a hand through his hair. "So have you," he replies, and they both realize how strange that sounds, yet neither corrects it. The conversation is simple at first. How long he's been back, how quiet the neighborhood's become. She offers him coffee, the way she used to when his parents were away. It feels natural to step onto her porch again, like walking into an old photograph that somehow still breathes. As they talk, he finds himself watching her hands as she speaks, graceful, expressive, small movements that seem to tell their own story. There's a steadiness in her that draws him in, the kind of peace he didn't know he missed until this moment. At one point, she laughs softly, shaking her head. "You always looked at the world like it was something to figure out," she says. "You still do." He wants to ask what she means, but instead he just smiles. The afternoon stretches around them, warm and full of unsaid things. He notices the faint lines near her eyes, the way her gaze lingers just a little too long, as if searching for something she left behind in him. When he finally stands to leave, she walks him to the edge of the porch. The wind moves through the chimes again, soft and melodic. "You've grown into someone I almost recognize," she says quietly, almost to herself. He turns, wanting to ask what she means, but she's already looking away, eyes on the fading horizon. As he walks down the street, her words echo in his chest, unshakable. He doesn't know why it feels like more than nostalgia, but it does. Something in the air between them had shifted, subtle, invisible, but real, like a door that's been closed for years, just beginning to open. He starts seeing her everywhere, or maybe he just notices her now. The small-town rhythm pulls them into quiet intersections. The grocery store aisle where she debates between two kinds of coffee, the morning trail where she walks with a thermos in hand, the little cafe on Elm where she always sits by the window, sunlight tracing the curve of her cheek. Each meeting feels accidental, but something about it doesn't feel like chance. It's as if the world keeps arranging ways for their paths to cross, but never long enough for either of them to admit they want it to. When she sees him, her expression shifts between surprise and something softer, like recognition. She greets him with that same half-smile, polite but warm, the kind that stays with him long after he walks away. One afternoon, he finds himself at the cafe again. He tells himself he's just there for coffee, but when she looks up and waves him over, he doesn't hesitate. She's wearing a light gray sweater, her hair pinned loosely behind her shoulders, a small gold bracelet catching the light as she stirs her drink. He sits across from her, and for a moment, neither speaks. The silence feels comfortable, familiar, the kind that only exists between people who've shared time before. She asks about his life in the city, his work, his plans, the places he's seen. He answers honestly, but somehow every sentence feels too small. The world he thought was vast suddenly seems dull compared to this, the sound of her voice, the way she tilts her head when listening. When he asks about her life, her answers are lighter, more practiced. She talks about her garden, her work at the library, how the town has changed. But underneath her words, there's something quieter, a loneliness she doesn't name, maybe doesn't even admit to herself. She glances out the window, eyes catching the reflection of people passing by. It's strange, she says softly, how you can live somewhere your whole life and still feel like a visitor sometimes. He studies her face, the way her smile falters slightly, how her fingers tighten around the coffee cup before letting go. There's a pause, and she looks at him, meeting his gaze for the first time that day. You remind me of something I used to believe in, she says. Her voice is gentle, but the words carry weight. He doesn't know what to say. He only knows that his chest feels tighter, like the air between them has changed shape. When they part, she touches his arm briefly, just enough to make him still. Her hand is warm, steady, deliberate. You should come by sometime, she says. I still make terrible coffee. He laughs softly, promising he will, though he doesn't know when. As he walks away, he feels her presence lingering, like sunlight that refuses to fade. There's still distance between them, the kind built from years and boundaries, but it's shrinking, quietly, naturally. And beneath that distance, something else is waking. Something neither of them dares to name yet, but both already feel. Days blur into weeks, and before he realizes it, helping her becomes routine. Not planned, not asked, just small things that somehow start to matter. Fixing the garden gate that won't stay closed. Repainting the porch railings she's been meaning to get to. Carrying boxes down from the attic while she sorts through old things she never found time to throw away. It's the kind of closeness that grows slowly, through ordinary moments, the kind people overlook until it's too late to call it ordinary anymore. One Saturday morning, he finds her sitting cross-legged on the porch, surrounded by a few old photo albums. She looks up and laughs when she sees him. I was just about to call you, she says, as if it's the most natural thing in the world. He sits beside her, and they leaf through the photographs. Birthdays, summer picnics, town fairs. Some are faded, corners curling with age. He finds a picture of himself at 12, holding a sparkler, grinning with awkward joy. She's in the background, smiling at something off camera, hair caught in mid-motion. You used to follow me around everywhere, she teases lightly. He laughs, embarrassed. I was probably just bored. Her gaze lingers on the photo a little too long before she says, You once told me you'd marry someone like me when you grew up. He freezes. Did I? She nods, laughing softly, but there's a faint tremor in it, something fragile underneath the amusement. You were so serious about it, too. Said you like how I never yelled at you when you broke things. He smiles, trying to play along. Well, you didn't. I should have, she says, still smiling, though her eyes tell another story. But you always looked so lost after. I couldn't stay mad. The wind stirs the edges of the photos, carrying the scent of cut grass and jasmine. For a long moment, they just sit there, the past flickering quietly between them. Later, when he's helping her move a stack of books inside, their hands brush over a worn leather cover. The contact is brief, accidental, but it roots him in place. Her hand is warm, familiar, and when she looks up, he can't tell if what flickers in her eyes is surprise or memory. Neither of them pulls away immediately. The silence feels alive, heavy with things they both understand but won't say. Finally, she withdraws, clearing her throat softly. You always notice too much, she says, forcing a smile. He shrugs lightly. Maybe you just hide too well. Her laughter returns, quiet this time, thoughtful. That evening, as he walks home, the memory of her voice stays with him. The laughter, the stillness that followed, the way her eyes softened when their fingers touched. He realizes the past isn't something you leave behind. Sometimes it waits, quietly, patiently, for you to circle back. And when you do, it doesn't greet you with words. It greets you with a feeling, one you thought you'd outgrown, but never really did. It begins on an afternoon that feels like summer remembering spring. sunlight pouring through the kitchen window, soft music playing low from an old radio, and the scent of something sweet baking in the oven. He's sitting at the counter, peeling apples for her pie, while she moves around the kitchen with quiet ease, humming under her breath. It's domestic, simple, the kind of moment that should mean nothing. And yet, it feels dangerous. She's wearing a loose white blouse and faded jeans, her long black hair tied up in a messy knot that keeps slipping loose. Every time she brushes a strand behind her ear, he catches himself looking too long. She doesn't notice at first, or maybe she does and chooses not to show it. Their laughter drifts easily at first. She teases him about peeling too much skin off the apples. He grins, pretending to be offended. It's called precision, he says. Precision, she repeats, amused. You're wasting half the fruit. He laughs, but the sound fades when she steps closer to show him how to hold the knife properly. Her hand closes gently over his, guiding it in a slow, steady motion. The warmth of her skin startles him. Not the touch itself, but how natural it feels. He doesn't move. Neither does she. The air thickens in the space between them, silence stretching longer than it should. When she finally steps back, it's subtle, as if the moment never happened, but the rhythm of the room has changed. They finish the pie in near silence, pretending everything's normal. But every glance, every movement is careful now, measured, deliberate. Later, as they sit on the porch waiting for the pie to cool, he finds himself studying her face in the soft light. She looks peaceful, content, her gaze lost somewhere beyond the yard. He wants to say something, anything, but can't find the right words. Instead, he asks quietly, "Do you ever wish things could stay like this?" She turns to him, her expression unreadable. "Like what?" "Simple," he says. "Uncomplicated." Her lips curve into a faint smile, but her eyes give her away. "Simple is never what it looks like," she murmurs. He nods, not trusting himself to answer. When she gets up to go inside, her hand grazes his shoulder, light almost accidental, but it sends a quiet current through him. She pauses just for a second, as if she feels it too. Then she continues walking, her footsteps soft on the old wooden floorboards. That night, neither of them sleeps easily. She lies awake listening to the ticking clock, his laughter still echoing faintly in her ears. He lies in his room, watching moonlight spill across the ceiling, replaying every glance, every touch, every unspoken question that hung between them. They both know there's a line. They both know it's there for a reason, but neither can pretend they don't see it anymore. And worse, neither really wants to. Days pass, but silence has weight now. It lingers in every corner of the house, between words that used to come easily. Where once there was laughter and teasing, now there's caution, an invisible distance that neither can name aloud. He tries to tell himself it's better this way. He keeps busy, helping with errands, spending more time in town, even visiting friends he hasn't seen in weeks. But it feels hollow, like pretending not to hear a song that's still playing in the back of his mind. When he's around her, he senses the change most sharply. She's kind, always but measured. Every glance is half-held, every smile cut short before it fully blooms. It's as though they've agreed, without words, to step back from something dangerous. And yet, the pull between them refuses to fade. One afternoon, he finds her sitting alone in the garden. The air is bright, golden, filled with the soft hum of bees moving lazily between the flowers. She's wearing a light sundress, her bare feet resting in the grass, a book open but unread in her lap. He hesitates at first, unsure if approaching her is the right thing. But she looks up, meeting his eyes, and that's all it takes. "Hey," he says quietly. "Hey," she replies, her tone soft but tired. He sits beside her, careful to leave space, though it feels like the distance itself is what hurts. For a while, neither speaks. The wind moves through the trees, warm and slow, carrying the faint scent of lavender. Then she closes her book and says, almost to herself, "It's strange how something can feel so right and so wrong at the same time." He turns to her, searching her face. "You mean us?" Her breath catches. She doesn't answer immediately. Instead, her eyes drift to the horizon, the place where the sky meets the earth, endless and unreachable. I mean everything, she says finally. The timing, the way people would see it, the part of me that tells me to stop, and the part that can't. He swallows hard, her words cutting through the quiet. Then why do we keep finding each other? Her lips part, then press into a trembling smile. Because maybe we're both a little lost. There's no touch this time, no impulsive movement. Just two people sitting in sunlight, each trying to reason with what their hearts already decided. He watches her fingers tighten around the edge of her book, a small, nervous gesture. And for the first time, he realizes how much she's been holding back. The strength she wears so effortlessly is also her shield. When she finally stands, brushing the grass from her dress, her voice breaks the silence one last time. Sometimes love isn't about holding on, she says softly. It's about learning when to let the other person breathe. Then she walks away, sunlight trailing over her shoulders like gold. He stays behind, the garden suddenly too quiet, the warmth on his skin fading into a hollow chill. For the first time, he understands distance isn't empty. It's just where all the unspoken things go to live. It happens on an evening that doesn't feel like it belongs to either of them. One of those dusky hours where the world glows soft and uncertain, as if holding its breath. The house is quiet. The lights are dim, the air thick with the faint scent of rain still clinging to the earth outside. He's sitting at the small wooden table in the kitchen, tracing patterns on the surface with his thumb. The steady tick of the clock is the only sound until footsteps approach. Light, familiar, and steady. She appears in the doorway, a cup of tea in her hand, her hair down this time. Dark waves falling past her shoulders, still damp from the shower. Her white sweater looks too big on her, sleeves pulled over her hands, and the simplicity of it somehow steals his breath. "You're still up?" she asks gently, leaning against the frame. "Couldn't sleep," he admits. "You?" She smiles faintly. "Same." The silence that follows isn't awkward. It's tender, expectant. The kind of quiet that only exists when words are too heavy to carry. She moves closer, sets her tea down on the table, and sits across from him. The glow from a small lamp paints her face in soft gold. The kind of light that makes her look both timeless and impossibly human. Her eyes meet his, steady but uncertain. "I've been thinking," she says finally, her voice low, "about us." The words land like a spark. He swallows, heart thrumming hard against his ribs. And her gaze drifts downward for a moment, fingers curling loosely around her cup. "You brought something back into my life I thought I'd lost." I laugh again. I look forward to mornings. "You make me." She stops herself, exhaling slowly. "You make me feel seen." He leans forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "That's not a bad thing." She shakes her head softly. "No, it's not bad, but it's dangerous." The truth sits between them, heavy and quiet. He wants to tell her everything, that he doesn't care about what's right or wrong, that all he knows is how deeply she's become a part of him. But before he can, she reaches out and places her hand over his. It's such a small gesture, gentle, trembling, but it says everything her words won't. Her thumb brushes against his skin, a slow, aching trace that feels like goodbye before she even speaks it. Her eyes glisten in the warm light, tears she refuses to let fall. "You don't belong in my world," she whispers, voice breaking. "And I don't know how to let you stay without losing myself." He closes his hand around hers, holding on, not to defy her, but to anchor himself in the truth that's slipping away. "Then don't," he says quietly. "Don't let go." For a heartbeat, she looks at him, really looks, as if memorizing the shape of what they are before it's gone. Then she slowly pulls her hand back, her expression soft but resolute. The space between them feels like miles now. She stands, her chair scraping faintly against the floor. "Good night," she murmurs, her voice barely holding steady. And before he can respond, she's gone, leaving behind the faint scent of her perfume and a silence that feels infinite. He sits there long after the light fades, the warmth of her touch still burning against his skin. It wasn't meant to be a confession. but it was for both of them. Morning comes slow, soft sunlight spilling through half-drawn curtains, painting the floor in quiet gold. He wakes before the world stirs, the kind of waking where the air feels too still, as if something inside him already knows the day will not end the same way it begins. He moves through the house in silence. Every room feels heavier now, holding echoes of laughter, glances, and half-finished conversations. Her absence feels immediate, even though she's still there, somewhere behind one of those closed doors. He finds her outside on the porch, sitting on the old swing with her knees drawn close, coffee in hand. The early light softens everything. Her long black hair glimmers faintly, her profile calm but distant. She looks peaceful, but it's the kind of peace that only comes from exhaustion, the kind that hurts quietly. He joins her without a word. The wood creaks as he sits, the space between them a fragile truce neither dares to cross. "Didn't think you'd be up this early," he says finally. She smiles faintly, eyes fixed on the fading mist beyond the yard. "Didn't sleep much." He nods. "Me neither." For a while, all they do is listen, to the wind, to the birds, to the world that continues despite what's breaking inside them. Then, softly, she says, "I've been offered a job. Out of state." The words land like the crack of thunder in a clear sky. He turns to her, startled. "You're leaving?" She nods once, eyes still forward. "It's a good opportunity. I wasn't even looking, but it found me." "Found you," he repeats, voice low. "Or did you go looking for a way out?" That makes her look at him. Really look. Her dark brown eyes, framed by faint smile lines and quiet pain, hold him still. "You think I want to leave?" she says softly. "You think this is easy for me?" He doesn't answer. He can't. Her voice trembles as she continues. "I keep telling myself I'm being responsible, that I'm protecting you, that I'm doing the right thing. But every time I look at you, I feel like I'm lying to both of us." The swing creaks again as it sways gently, a rhythm against the rising wind. He looks down at his hands, then at hers resting in her lap. "Then don't lie," he says. "Stay." She shakes her head, tears finally glistening at the edges of her lashes. "It's not that simple." "Maybe it is," he whispers. "Maybe we make it complicated because we're afraid of what people will think. But this," he gestures between them, voice breaking, "this is real." Her silence stretches long. Then, slowly, she reaches out, her hand trembling as it finds his. Her touch is warm, familiar, the same touch that once steadied him, now shaking under the weight of goodbye. "You've been mine from the very beginning," she says, her voice raw and tender. "But maybe that's why I have to let you go." The wind carries her words away, but they linger, caught between them, suspended like a promise that can't be kept. He closes his hand around hers one last time, as if trying to memorize the feel of it, the warmth, the life. Then she stands, the sun spilling over her shoulders, turning her tears into light. He doesn't stop her. He can't, because love, he realizes, isn't always about staying. Sometimes it's about letting the other person walk away, knowing that no matter how far they go, a part of them will always remain. And as she disappears down the path, the swing still swaying gently beside him, he whispers into the morning air, not loud enough for her to hear, but enough for himself. "You'll always be mine too."